think, how do you see this game playing out? Does Mr. Irrelevant become even more relevant, go 8-0 in his 8 career starts under center?
I tell you, I'm excited as hell to watch this game for a couple of reasons, because I think we can all agree that these are the two best teams in the NFC that we have facing off in the conference championship round. When I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, I feel like they're the more complete team out of the two. We can't understate that Jalen Hurts, I mean, he was in the running, whether you believed it or not. Like some people said, it was always Patrick Mahomes, but I felt that Jalen Hurts was the MVP of the league before he injured his shoulder. He was playing that well. And I think when you look how efficient he was passing the ball, and then at the same time, he was a beast running the ball. I mean, they had some games where he had over 150 yards in the first half. I mean, so to be able to do that in the run and pass game was just electric. And then you have all those weapons to throw it to. And I understand that it's a team game. You can't really put wins on top of that. But, I mean, you have to win in order to win MVP as well. And he had his team, only with one loss before he got injured. And so when I look at this Philadelphia Eagles team, I feel like the one thing that's going to benefit them in this game is putting stress on the 49ers offense and forcing them to get out of their element and score more points. What the 49ers want to do is this. They want to lean on that run game, have Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, just kind of Elijah Mitchell, roll them in the run game, and then that way you can protect Brock Purdy. And I think the Cowboys game was a perfect example of that, because the Dallas Cowboys weren't efficient enough on offense to put stress on the 49ers offense to get them outside of that box and make them throw the ball downfield a little bit longer. The Niners just kept wearing them away with the run. You notice the run wasn't that effective in the first half. But then once you got like deep into the third quarter and the fourth quarter, that's when they finally wore them out with the run game, and they were able to take over that game. But if you have an explosive offense like the Eagles, where they can run the ball effectively, they can hit you over the top, as we noticed the Cowboys were able to do with CeeDee Lamb. Trust me, Jalen Hurts will be able to do that with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So if you get the 49ers to where they have to press a little bit on offense early on, I'm really interested to see how Brock Purdy responds to that, how Kyle Shanahan calls the plays in regards to that. So my early read on this game is that I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles are the better team. If I had to lay money on somebody to win the game, it would be the Philadelphia Eagles. But I also understand that there are a lot of people who are heavy on the Niners as well. And so if there's anything, and if you feel that, and I'm interested to hear Jared's take too before I try to give my feel on where I want to go with the total. But if I feel like people are confident that Brock Purdy can lead this offense, run the ball effectively, and have some strategic plays in the pass game to where they can put up some points, then maybe the over is a play, because I don't have zero worries about the Philadelphia Eagles scoring points. I just worry about will Brock Purdy be able to produce enough in the pass game to be able to affect that Philadelphia defense that is one of the better pass defenses in the league.
Yeah, Jared, I don't know if you agree with this too, but I look at, the Eagles right now. The short and mid-range passing game could be killer against them. And I feel like that plays really well into what the 49ers do, like Tank was saying, Christian McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, and Brock Purdy. I feel like his bread and butter has kind of been those short, effective passes. Like, he's not a guy making like big downfield passes a majority of the time. But he's been steady. Like last game, and I know you mentioned this the week before too, he had 0 turnover-worthy plays. Like, this guy has been solid. But in terms of scoring points, do you feel like the total could go over in a game like this? Like, obviously, like Tank said, the Eagles are not going to struggle scoring. But Brock Purdy went up against the second-best defense in the NFL last week, and obviously was stifled a little bit. The Eagles aren't going to be as good as the Cowboys defense was. You think he'll be able to be a little bit more productive against them?
Yeah, the market thinks so. It opened 45 over at our friends at the Superbook, and it's sitting now 46.5. So there's definitely some money coming in, early money coming in on the over. There's some early money that came in on the Eagles, open 1.5, now sitting 2.5 market wide. So you still have a good teaser opportunity with the Niners. We'll get into that a little later in the show. But I definitely think the early sharp money that entered the market Monday, Tuesday-ish is definitely favoring Philly. There's a lot of buzz this week about Jalen Hurts, and I think I won't even name the analyst that compared him to Daniel Jones. We need to put that.
Jalen Hurts,
put Chris Sims out there. I used to do a show with Chris Sims back in the day. Go ahead and put his name out there. If he felt the need to put that on tape, then we can talk about it. We can put his name on it.
Okay. Chris Sims, there's no comparison to Jalen Hurts to Daniel Jones. There just isn't. So Jalen Hurts has the second lowest turnover-worthy play rate in the NFL this season amongst quarterbacks that have at least 400 snaps. The only other quarterback that's even in the same vicinity, slightly lower, is Andy Dalton, and he had 153 less snaps than Jalen Hurts did this year.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts has turned into one of the most efficient and dangerous quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think there's not a lot of love for him. I don't disagree with a lot of things Chris Sims says. I'm sure he's very smart. He knows what he's talking about. But I don't understand where that's coming from, because when I look at Daniel Jones, the dude's a turnover machine. And he's limited those turnovers a little bit this year. But overall, big picture, I don't understand how he makes that comparison, because Jalen Hurts has been fantastic this year, and he showed it in that game on Saturday. And I think that's going to be
hop in with you just right quick before you get off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you get off this tangent, because look, I don't know if I mentioned on this show, if you look at Jalen Hurts' stats from last year and look at Daniel Jones' stats from this year, they're comparable. So you can make this narrative that if you build a team similar to the Eagles for Daniel Jones, he may be able to replicate what Jalen Hurts is doing this year, possibly. But those two are not the same cat at all.
Yeah, they're not. No, they're not.
Yeah, I think we're in the hot take generation, right? Like, I understand why Chris probably said it. Maybe he did mean it. But I think when you look at some of the underlying metrics that make a quarterback great, for example, to me, there's two things that are separating the four teams that are playing this weekend to the other teams in the NFL. And it's two things, really. It's turnovers and it's early down success. I'm not surprised that the top four quarterbacks in the NFL, lowest turnover-worthy play rate in the NFL this year. Justin Herbert's one. The other three, Burrow, Hurts, Mahomes. Again, that's not a coincidence. Now, Justin Herbert, say what you want about the rest of the team and the Charger situation, and they probably had a chance to be playing last weekend if they wouldn't have blew a 27-0 lead. But my point being, Jalen Hurts does something that the other quarterbacks in the league on average don't do, and he limits turnovers, and he's done a really great job of it this season. The early down success rate, the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, early down success efficiency over the last 6 or 8 weeks since week 13, so let's say 7 weeks. Mahomes is 1, Hurts is 4, Burrow is 6, Purdy is 10th. All four quarterbacks playing this weekend are in the top 10 of the early down efficiency rankings. And again, Jalen Hurts is 4th on that list. So he's turning it over at a bottom 5 rate, and he's a top 5 efficient quarterback on early downs. I mean, the dude he's an MVP. And that needs to be definitely emphasized in this game, because as good as Brock Purdy has played, and he had another 0 turnover-worthy play game last week, I think Jalen Hurts is playing better. That being said, I do think there's a little bit of a gap between what the Eagles have faced over the last few weeks and what they're going to face this week. For example, the Eagles pressure the quarterback just as well as Dallas does. They're second in the NFL, right behind Dallas. Brock Purdy is going to see a similar rate of pressure to what he saw last week. But over the last 7 games, the Eagles have faced 5 offensive line groups that are bottom 4 in pressure rate allowed. The Giants 3 times, one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL, Chicago and Tennessee. The best 2 offensive lines they faced in the last 2 months, they lost both games to the Saints, and they got pushed around in that game, and into the Cowboys. That game was crazy, back and forth. I think it could have gone either way. So I do think there's a little bit of a different vibe this week in the trenches, whereas Philly has just been running through the offensive lines they faced, and last week was no contest. Daniel Jones had dudes in his grill all night long. I think San Francisco is going to do a better job blocking and scheming this week, because that's what they do. And so this is a bit of a chess match here. The other part of this game that I think is fascinating is how the Niners have fared against mobile quarterbacks this year. If you go back and watch the tape against the Falcons and Marcus Mariota, it was a really bad performance by the Niners defense, one of their worst of the year. They lost 28-14 in that game, and they really struggled against the quarterback design runs. Mariota had 5 attempts for 35 yards and a touchdown, 3 first downs. And I think overall the play action was a big part there, the RPO game. So there's a battle here on both sides of this one, and I think both teams offensively have a chance to have some success. Again, the Eagles defense has feasted on bad O-lines, and the Niners have struggled a little bit the one time that they faced a mobile quarterback this year. So I kind of agree. I think the over might be an interesting bet in this game, especially if you can find it below 47, which is still where it's sitting market-wide.